What's up, YouTube? I am working on my wife's 2011 4Runner. So the starter has been giving us problems. She would go to start the engine, turn the key, and it would hesitate for like a second or two sometimes. And there would be no crank. There would just be nothing. She would turn the key and just nothing. You wait for like 3 seconds, 2 seconds, whatever, and then it would finally crank over and then start. That's been going on for a couple years. It's been progressively getting worse and worse. I've tried to diagnose, some other smaller things, a starter relay, ignition switch, a couple other things, and it's still acting up. So I was driving it a couple weeks ago, and it happened, and I went to go turn the ignition, and I could hear this clunk. The solenoid, it just wasn't engaging. So ordered a new starter. That was $220. Anyway, I looked up online different things on how to replace the starter, and found a couple of them. One guy went up underneath, took out the drive line, and took the starter out in pieces, and then dropped it from underneath. Another guy did it from the side, like I got going on, except for he actually ended up taking off the upper control arm and got it out as a whole assembly, which, I mean, yeah, you can do that. But I was like, man, what is the easiest way? I don't have to do any of that stuff. I did see another guy mention about taking the steering column out, just disconnecting it and getting it out that way. And I'm like, man, there's got to be an easier way. So I kind of did mesh those two videos together. I didn't go from underneath. I went from the side, but I disassembled it while it was in the little bay there. And so I actually ended up just pulling it out of this area right here. This is the brake line, pulled it back, and it fit just fine. So no need to get all crazy and take the drive line out, take the upper control arm off. I mean, you're just going to have to disassemble it while it's inside the little area right there. Disassemble it, comes out in 3 pieces. Pretty simple. There's 2. I'll show you on the new one. There's 2 longer bolts here, and then take these 2 screws out here, these 2 bolts out here, and then you got to take this off, and then it'll come out in 3 pieces, just like that. Comes out super easy. Pull these 2 bolts off of the brake line, pull the brake line back. I have this kind of holding the brake line out, and it comes out super easy. No need to, like I said, get all crazy pulling the upper control arm off and taking the drive line out and all that other shit. Just take the wheel off, a couple bolts on the brake line. Obviously you're gonna have the heat shield for the starter. I'm not gonna lie, it is kind of a pain in the ass to get to the bolts for the starter. Mine were cinched down pretty good. So it took me a little while to get it loose, but once I did, it was pretty much easy out. So basically now I'm just going to disassemble this one, the new one, get it back up in there, put it back together, and then put everything back together. So I'll show you how I do that. So I'm going to get started taking this off, or taking this apart right now, and I'll show you once I get it in there. You're going to have to take off the skid plate, which there are 4 bolts. Alright guys, so here's an update. So I was able to take the new starter apart in 2 pieces, not 3. And so I have the motor down here and the other piece up there. So I was able to get it in between this lower control arm, right in between, behind the axle, and then right here is the diff. So there's a pretty good space right here. It did take a couple tries to get it finagled up there, twisted, shoved up there, but I was able to get it up there. So I'll get that in a position where I can get that turned around so I can install the motor, and then I'll get the motor installed, and then we'll get the whole assembly installed. All right, there it is. I got it all assembled. Got the motor put on it, got the long bolts on it. You don't want to tighten them down too tight. Just be mindful of how tight they were when you took them off. I don't have the torque specs or anything, but and then I got that other connector right there. I got that put on there. So I'm going to twist this back, and I'm going to get it flipped upside down, get it in place, and then I'll get the bolts started. Okay guys, I got bolts tightened, got the connector connected, this connector, and I've got the 3 bolts. So there's one here, there's one under here, and then there's another one right here. So got all those on, and so let's go reconnect the battery. Okay, so I got the battery reconnected. I want to try it just to make sure that there's no issues. Moment of truth. Look at that. Hell yeah. So that was actually a lot easier than what I thought it was going to be. The hardest part about this whole job is probably getting the actual starter bolts loose and tightened. Everything else it's a little time consuming. And then also finagling the starter up between the control arm, the lower control arm. That took a little, it's almost like Tetris. I mean, you're going like this and like this, twisting, you know what I mean? Trying to get it turned different ways, and this way and that way. And it'll go. Eventually it'll go. Just give it a few turns, twists and flips and whatnot, and you'll get that up there in 2 pieces. I got that in there in 2 pieces. And which I probably could have got it out in 2 pieces too, but I mean, I didn't know, you know what I mean? So I just took it apart in 3 pieces, got the 3 pieces out from the side, actually up here. And then I got it put back up under, like I said, between the lower control arm. All right, so I'll get the brake line put back on, and then the shield, there's a little like seal, real flimsy little seal that goes right here. And then I'll put the wheel on. All right, guys, we're all finished up. You can see the heat shield back there for the starter. Got that on there. Got the brake line secured. I got this little seal back on there. I got the wheel on. Another thing too, definitely disconnect the battery. I did both positive, negative, just because, I don't know, I'm just that anal, I guess. And so disconnect the battery before you start any of this work. And then I did, jacked it up, and then I put, jack stand underneath. I did chalk the wheel as well. You know, all the safety stuff. So the tools that I use, just basically just right here. I got a couple sets of sockets. I got 1/4 inch and 3/8 drive ratchets. I found it easier with using the 1/4 inch up in the tight spaces, and to where I could get leverage on like the connectors. Not so much the starter bolts. The starter bolts, I use this, the 3/8, and then what I did was I put this on the end of the ratchet so I could get a little bit more torque. it really helped taking them off, getting them loosened, and then tightening them back up. So you're gonna go, I mean, small little turns at a time, but eventually you'll get there. So that was definitely helpful. I used a flathead screwdriver while the starter was up in the space, the old one, and so I had to get a screwdriver to pry the pieces apart, because they're just old and stuck together. So after I had pulled all the bolts out, it was kind of hard to pull them off, by hand. So I actually had to get a screwdriver and pry in between each one to get them loose. But other than that, once they came loose, it was easy to get them out. This clip tool, just to remove the seal there on the side, the Christmas tree clips, the wheel, loosen the wheel. This I used to hold the brake line out of the way, and so this obviously was helpful. But other than that, I mean, pretty simple stuff. A couple lights definitely were helpful, and then my old man knee pads, or my knee pad little thing there. So yeah, came out good. Like I said, it was a lot easier than what I thought it was going to be. I thought I would, was going to have to either take off the steering column or the upper control arm or the drive line, and I'm like, oh man, there's got to be an easier way. And so definitely, this is the best of both worlds. The ultimate hack for replacing the starter on your 5th gen 4Runner. Questions, comments, drop them below, and we'll see you on the next one.